Hello and welcome back to the Gaming 5. On today's current generation consoles, there are lots of features, and when I say lots, I mean lots. But many gamers take these things for granted, not realizing they should be thankful for their competition rather than so keen to talk shit about it. Let's start by having a look at what Nintendo has standardized in the industry. It's time to get sexual! Nintendo didn't invent analog sticks, but let's face the facts, they pushed and refined it ahead of its time into the mainstream gaming population as a thumbstick. Thanks to Nintendo and the N64, the analog thumbstick became an instant hit, and while I'm sure it was more of an eventuality than an innovation, it still is the de facto standard for 3D environmental movement. Amazingly, it didn't stop there. The Rumble Pack would instantly make gaming more pleasurable for females. Or at least that's what every sheltered gamer thought it would do. Instead, it would introduce what is still today the standard for handheld feedback for every explosion, bullet fired, face punched, and pretty much anything involving not standing still. But if a large, awkwardly shaped vibrator wasn't enough for you, Nintendo got even more sexual. Motion controls. Now before you balk and act like it's not standard, ever since the Wii, motion controls are subtly everywhere even now. The gamepad, DualShock 3, DualShock 4, and Kinect are or contain forms of motion control. The simple concept of using gyrometers inside the controller gave way to the eventual, futuristic idea that we move to interact. Less physically excitable players may call it a gimmick, but every current generation console has some form of motion controls, and while mostly optional, don't even pretend it's not there nor that it doesn't have its applications. Yes, this is infamous Second Son, and I'm spray painting by holding the DualShock 4 sideways like a rattle can. Moving on to Microsoft, things might not be so physical. Microsoft didn't invent online gaming, but rather pushed it ahead of its time and into the mainstream console gaming population with the Xbox, and what is now known as Xbox Live, through the success story known as Halo 2. This incredibly robust focus on broadband gaming would change the way console gamers enjoyed playing games with their friends basically forever, and increase these numbers exponentially from then on. Again, much like I said before, this was an eventuality more so than innovation, but thanks to the unfathomable money and time continually invested, we have Microsoft to thank for the ease of partying up online today with our friends and pleasantly chatting while expertly placing bullets in their faces. Oh, but there is one more thing that Microsoft is definitely and absolutely owed credit for. Achievements. Sure, you can pretend you don't care about these, and maybe you really don't, but they became so popular that Sony followed suit, bringing about the trophy system to their platform. Some achievements are indeed trivial, and others monumentally difficult. However, there is one thing that is inarguable. It's a standard for your gaming profile to have some sort of counter that merits your gaming life. And now we finish up with Sony. Sony may not have pushed the thumbstick like Nintendo, but they did do something equally important. They doubled it. Sure, more than likely another eventuality, but how else were you going to move and precisely aim at the same time? Dual analog sticks is the answer, and still is primarily now, for moving and aiming on a console. It also taught you how to work both nipples at once. Sony did also double something else of Nintendo's. It wasn't called DualShock for nothing. It contained two rumble motors. Doubling things doesn't stop there, as Sony also doubled the number of Z-trigger buttons by adding L3 and R3, also today's standard for aiming and shooting. Oh, but Sony wasn't too shabby on the non-physical things either, and we have them to thank for pushing the envelope of non-volatile storage memory for gaming known as CDs and Blu-rays. Sure, it was their own technology they were pushing, but let's face it, the concept of cartridges is only just now coming back into plausibility thanks to our ability to place such large amounts of flash memory in such compact spaces. Spaces more compact than a disc. However, we'll still be on discs for quite some time. In summary, Nintendo has brought the most physical interaction standards, Microsoft has brought the most online connectivity and meta functionality, and Sony has brought the most refinements. While I can't say any single one is the clear winner here, one thing is for sure, gamers should be appreciating their competition, not mocking it. Now before you ask or wonder why I didn't include other console manufacturers, the answer is simple. Right now, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are the only major players in the console race. Thus, I chose to speak on companies that are prominent today. Also, if you ask why I didn't mention the D-pad, that's because the analog thumbstick replaced it as the primary input for movement. That's it for today. Subscribe for more gaming content delivered directly to your retinas. I'll see you next time on the Gaming 5.